the chamber doesn't heal anything. It enables the body to heal itself.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Come and Clean Podcast. This is your host, Peter O. Estevez. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we have none other than Mr. Bruce McKeeman, who is the co-founder of Summit to See, one of the largest manufacturers of U.S. Hyperbaric oxygen chambers. Hello, Bruce, and welcome to a new episode of Come and Clean Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I look forward to our discussion.
I do too. So let's start with something very simple. You and I met as a result of a scan that I had at the Amen Clinics. You know, I actually learned about Dr. Daniel Amen on a podcast. He was on the Lewis House podcast, and they were talking about, you know, the new technology that is available, the new medical advances, and how we're able to have a 360-degree view of the brain through the SPECT scan, and be able to see what areas of our brains light up, don't light up, which ones have deteriorated, which ones have been damaged, have had some severe trauma, or any of those conditions, or any other conditions. And they specialize primarily in seeing patients that are seeking ADHD, you know, to help themselves with HDAD, also high elite performers, a lot of athletes, a lot of head injuries as a result of sports, whether it's through football or basketball or any other injury as a result of a sports injury. And I went in there with the idea of learning about how could I become a better performer. Okay. Yes. All through my life, I have been, I'm a high functioning individual. I've been very successful in business. Had always had some difficulties learning very early on. I always attributed that to English being my second language. But I learned a lot as a result of the SPECT. And as a result of the SPECT, I also learned that one of the greater benefits medically that the Amen Clinics recommends as part of my treatment anyway, was the use of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Okay, so with that in mind, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So tell us what a hyperbaric chamber is. First of all,
it's a pressurized vessel for human occupancy. Okay. In other words, it's a vessel. The mild chambers like you have are soft-sided. You unzip it, you climb in, zip it sealed shut, and compressors will compress the air to 30% more than the room pressure. And that 30% more is what makes the chamber effective.
Okay. And as a result of that 30% more oxygen that I'm actually breathing, taking in, what other properties or what happens during that process? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the amount of oxygen is less important than the solubility. Okay. In other words, the pressure allows it to dissolve into your soft tissues, your body fluids, into areas where there's lack of blood supply, like a concussion or a wound. Therefore, you're getting oxygen bypassing the circulatory system. So it can get to those areas. It is a natural way of getting oxygen to the organs, to the blood vessels, especially to the brain.
Okay. Now, and you alluded to some of the benefits that it does. Okay. So as a result of getting that oxygen into the brain, into the areas that typically we're not able to absorb because of the lack of density that the oxygen has in a normal open space area. Okay. What are some of the benefits? And I know you're not a medical doctor. I know that you cannot speak as to from a medical perspective. But what are some of the medical practitioners or third-party representatives that retail the hyperbaric chamber?
Well, we found many doctors are prescribing it for various off-label uses. The mild hyperbaric chamber on label is actually to treat the symptoms of acute altitude sickness. But many doctors found that it's very helpful in everything from concussion to brain injury to uh, autoimmune issues to MS. So we find that our resellers are selling as a result of prescriptions from doctors for various things. Basically, it's an anti-inflammatory. It is delivering oxygen to wounded-ish areas of the body. So that's how it helps.
So let's talk about Bruce. Bruce actually had cancer, okay? And this business became as a result of you seeking how to improve your health, right? So tell me
Right.
a little bit about your condition, what happened, how did you end up in this business? But more importantly, what has happened since?
All right. It's a very interesting story. I was diagnosed with late stage colon cancer, and we went into surgery. And after surgery, the doctor said, "You don't have cancer, you have Crohn's disease." Crohn's disease is a word that describes a symptom. It's not a disease, it's an inflammation of the gut. So I needed to uh, figure out how to get that inflammation down. Multiple things happened. We started eating organic. We started removing gluten from our diet. And we decided to get a hyperbaric chamber. Now, what caused that decision? We watched we homeschooled our kids and did a sequence on the pre flood creation science, and found out that the scientists and archaeologists would find the little amber samples, and the little bubbles inside were 40% oxygen instead of 20,
Wow.
and at double the pressure. So at the end of this little seminar, they showed a hyperbaric chamber and said, you can help simulate what the earth was like pre-flood when people weren't sick. They were living hundreds of years. So we said, all right, we got to get us one of those. And we went on eBay, got scammed, and then I still had a little budget left. So I searched and searched to find a hyperbaric chamber I could afford. And in that search, I found hundreds of moms and dads driving hours to get their autistic children to a center that had a mild hyperbaric chamber.
Autistic children.
Yes.
Okay.
So I flew to France where they were making mountaineering chambers and redesigned them for the American market. And that was back in '07. And now we have thousands of them out in the field. I got my hyperbaric chamber, and not only that, I got the ability to manufacture it, got the FDA clearance for it, and now we are providing affordable chambers to those moms and dads so they don't have to drive hours every day.
So let's talk about what is the benefit, if you know it and if you can speak on it, okay, to an autistic child that is using the chamber. What is the difference? What improvements or what is it visible that the parents are seeing?
They're seeing a change in behavior, and the change in behavior is a result of having more oxygen to those areas of the brain. Like if you had a SPECT scan for an autistic child, you'd find some really deprived, oxygen deprived areas. So now they're getting that oxygen to their brain through dissolving the oxygen into the brain fluids. So the symptoms start to reverse. But the key is not to stop there, because God made our body so incredibly well that we sense I've got brain cells and no capillary structure. And then it starts rebuilding the capillary structure.
Wow.
And then once they're through the window, that's the expression when autistic child gets into a normal range, they can stop after rebuilding that capillary structure. So it's just very interesting.
So let me ask you a question. In my case, and I'm going to use that as a reference because I can talk about it, and you can support me with the knowledge you have as a user and as a manufacturer of the chambers. Okay. In my case, we discovered that as a result of my alcohol abuse for many years, I was a chronic alcoholic. and started drinking at the age of 12. I've been sober 22 plus years. But apparently, I discovered through the SPECT scan that I also had some head injury trauma. Okay, some severe injury trauma. No idea where it came from. I don't know if it's from childhood. I don't know if it's a result of one of my drunken stupors. I don't know what it was, but it's been okay. I am a high functioning individual. I didn't go in there because I had believed that I had a head injury, because I had trauma, or because I didn't function adequately. Okay. Early on, I had some learning disabilities, but I always attribute those learning disabilities to the lack of to English being my second language and not my primary language, and me being able to learn how to speak English at a later age in life. So I had always attributed that. Okay. What we have learned as a result of my SPECT scan is that I actually have some damage, some brain damage, some trauma on my home, and that there's some areas that have been severely damaged as a result of my alcohol abuse. And that although I am a active high performer, and though I have taken many measures in life, I mean, I am at high risk of actually developing dementia at some point in my life had I not tended to these issues.
Yes.
Okay. So, me being me, I decided that I ain't going to go, I'm full in, right? So I always been an overachiever. I always wanted to, take care of myself, learn, grow, evolve, change, make an impact in the world. And I can't do it if I'm not functioning at my best potential. So what is the best case scenario? In my scenario, based on the conversation we had yesterday with Dr. Shane Criado on live Instagram, in what you see that the benefit of the chamber are going to do for me?
What the chamber is going to do for you is stop the primary cause of all illness, and that's inflammation. It acts as an anti-inflammatory, and it's safe to use 8 hours a day if you wanted to office out of your chamber. We've got chambers large enough you can literally do that. It's going to allow the brain and the tissues to quiet. They've been inflamed. When you get a concussion or an injury, that part of the brain becomes inflamed. And sometimes the damage can be so great that you can't restore the tissues. But in recent studies, the medical industry is saying the brain can build new cells.
Wow.
Yeah, they've been saying for years, the cells you were born with are all you got. And that's not the case. So for you, it would be let's say aid in recovery from exercise, aid in clearing the clouds, aid in giving you a feeling of well-being. Because as you and I mentioned before the podcast started, attitude is all about your health.
Absolutely.
If your attitude is, I know this is going to help me, guess what?
It's going to help. Yeah, it's going to help me. And we talked about that earlier. We talked about the placebo effect. And I told you, I don't care if it's placebo. Is it going to help me? Okay. Whether it's placebo or not placebo, if I need to eat a cube of sugar every day to make me feel better, and that's going to improve my health and make me have a better outlook in life, and I'm going to be more positive, and I'm going to be able to make an input in the universe. That's what I want to do. I'm at a legacy building state of my life where I want to make a difference. In fact, I created the podcast as a vehicle to be able to empower others about this type of conversations, this type of topics that I rarely talked about. Most people in my position that are highly visible, that use platforms to empower others. There are, entrepreneurs or business people don't want to talk about this type of issues. I don't think I would have been so openly about talking about brain damage 20 years ago. My board would have kicked me off, right? But I'm open about it because now I realize that it's just an organ that needs healing, that needs to be repaired, and that it can be restored. Had I not gone to Amen clinics, okay, had I not done that brain scan, that SPECT scan, I would have never known this. And maybe as my father with Alzheimer's and dementia, I would have, I realize that there's I don't know what the unknown is, right? I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I'm going to take every preventive measure to make sure that I am able to have a better quality of life than I could have otherwise. So
Yes.
let's talk about this from a lifestyle perspective. Let's talk about from the individual who live in an area where people are very health conscious. Okay, we are empowered by thousands and thousands of megabytes of information each and every day. And there's this workout routine. There's this daily practices that people practice. There's a 5 a.m. club by Robin Sharma. There's a miracle morning by there's all kinds of different lifestyle powerful practices. Okay, how can I incorporate? Forget the medical condition, forget anything else, but how can I incorporate the hyperbaric chamber into a lifestyle, and what benefits are those?
The lifestyle is getting the discipline to do it every day, and to do at least an hour to 90 minutes. And then if you really want to see maximum benefit, is then do it again in the afternoon, about 5 hours later. The reason for the 5 hour split is the body is saturated with oxygen after you come out of the chamber. It doesn't immediately go back to the former state. It will shed that oxygen over 3-4 hours. So
Okay.
you've had enhanced oxygen in your body for 5 hours. Then you get in the chamber again and you have it for another 5. So by taking 2 hours out of your day, you have 10 hours of enhanced oxygen saturation. And the benefit of that is longer telomeres, stronger cells, stronger immune system. The chamber doesn't heal anything. It enables the body to heal itself.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. That is powerful. So let me how about for sports injuries or any other type of recreational injury that somebody may have? Is there any benefits to that?
So here's what happens when you have an injury. Let's say I get nailed in the arm during a basketball game. It starts to swell. It's getting inflamed. Blood supply is being cut off to the wound, the very thing we need to heal. So I get in the hyperbaric chamber. Now, all that liquid in that swelling is saturated with oxygen. The healing begins. The inflammation goes down, and I'm healed in half the time. Just a little interesting side story. Veterinarians are using the chamber on the animals pre and post surgery,
Wow.
and they're recovering in half the time.
Wow.
They only have to wear that silly little hood
Sure. So they don't
for a day or
right.
two
Yeah.
instead of a week.
Right. So let's talk about where Bruce is at with his condition since he started using the chamber, and where are you still using the chamber on a regular basis?
Yes, I still use it on a regular basis. I haven't taken antibiotics for 13 years
Wow.
since I started using the chamber. My immune system's doing all the work. I don't need any additive.
Okay.
With this pandemic going around, I'm not scared because they have found that the hyperbaric chamber helps saturate the body with oxygen when your lungs are starting to fill up with liquid and you're not getting the lung bloodstream transfer. So it's giving your immune system that extra time it needs to defeat the coronavirus.
Wow. Wow. So tell me, Bruce, what aside from using the chamber, in the morning and using it in the afternoon, is there any? Can you sleep in the chamber? Can I?
Absolutely.
Okay.
These football teams the players who have chambers will ship them to the hotel the day before a game. So when they get to the hotel, they sleep in the chamber overnight. And now when they go out on the field, they're oxygenated, where the opponent who doesn't have a chamber is just getting oxygen from the air they breathe. The player with the chamber has a reserve already, like you filled your gas tank before you went out.
So basically the oxygen stays into your system until it regulates again.
Yeah.
And it exhausts that. It exhausts that. Now, doing the chamber on a daily basis, you reach a level of oxygen that is normal to our body. Is that what it is? Do I understand that correctly?
If you do it on a regular basis, you have more hours of the healing power and the anti-inflammatory effect.
Okay.
It's not that I did the chamber yesterday, so this morning I have more oxygen. I did the chamber yesterday, so this morning I have more, less inflammation and more energy, and my immune system, since it is being assisted by that dissolved oxygen, it doesn't have to work so hard. Again, the immune system's doing the healing, but we're creating an environment that it can work better.
Okay. Couple of questions. Tell us about the different type of chambers that you manufacture and the use of each one of those.
Certainly. We have our entry level, which we call the shallow dive, 26 inches in diameter, 7 feet long, single person use, laying down. Then the dive chamber is 33 inches in diameter in a lay down model, and it's 60 inches in diameter, 56, in a vertical, so that you can sit in a chair like this and just take your dive that way, bring in your computer, bring in your cell phone. And that's another point. Because these chambers are pressurized with ambient air, you can bring in electronics.
Okay.
Where the hard shell, 100% oxygen, you can't.
Okay.
And then we go to the Grand Dive series, and here's where we hit very unique chambers. We have a Grand Dive vertical, we have the Grand Dive horizontal, then we have what's called the Pro Series. It's the equivalent of being in a small room, 60 inches in diameter, close to 8 feet long. You can put an office chair in there, a desk. I call it the hyperbaric room. And the great thing about it is the entire end opens up. So you walk in.
Okay.
You don't have to pull a zipper open and step through, or just very ergonomic, inviting. And, I recommend anyone who wants to see these, just go to our website and look at the introduction video. It is just wonderful to watch people roll the wheelchair in.
And your website will be available on the show notes. This kind of reminds me like that movie Bubble Boy. Remember that old movie where that kid lived in that capsule? So
Yep.
was that something similar to what a chamber is like?
It's similar. The purposes are different. The capsule was to prevent any bacteria coming in because he had a bad immune system, where the chamber is just bringing more pressure and oxygen. The capsule wasn't additional pressure.
Okay. Now, Summit to Sea is not a direct distributor. You're only a manufacturer. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have a distribution channel with over 50 resellers helping us get that product out to those who need it.
Absolutely. Bruce, where can people find you?
When you say find me, our website?
Yeah, where can people find more information about Summit to Sea and about the benefits of hyperbaric chambers?
Certainly, summittosea.com, and it's summit-to-sea.com. And there's a wealth of information there.
Absolutely, there is. And I want to invite the audience to continue listening to us. I want to invite our listeners to follow both Bruce and I. Summit to Sea Hyperbaric is also on Instagram. We are going to be doing, in fact, we did our first live on Instagram yesterday with Dr. Criado of the Amen Clinics. They are, Summit to Sea is actually my sponsor in part of my journey to healing my brain and becoming an optimum, functioning at my optimum possible means, and in this quest for me to live a healthier, better, sober life as I have been living for the past 22 years. but I am going to continue to look for ways of hacking myself and not only hacking myself, but being able to expand my life expectancy as much as I can with partners like Summer to Seed, like the Amen Clinics, and other collaborators that we will incorporate into my journey. Bruce, I want to thank you. I want to thank your team at Summit to See. Thank you for your support, and we will be doing this live. In fact, we're going to do a live where I'm actually in the chamber, and so people can see what it's like. They can see me using my phone. They can see me that I'm fully functional, that I'm able to communicate. I use my chamber on a daily basis. I have incorporated a series of rituals I call powerful practices that I do on a daily basis. Starts with workout. I work out. I take a quick shower. I jump in. I go for a walk and then jump into the chamber for my prayer, for my meditation, for my reading, for my journaling, for my gratitude list. And I spend an hour, hour and a half in the chamber. And at night, I do the same thing. I do my reading in the chamber for another hour, hour and a half. And typically after I travel, as you know, I travel consistently between Mexico City and California and other places, almost on a weekly basis. When I come in from my trips, I sleep usually 6 to 8 hours to just recuperate from all the information that I get from my trips, from my travel.
It's wonderful for jet lag.
Yes, it absolutely is. So I want to thank you, Bruce. Thank you for the opportunity, and let's do this again soon.
Okay, you're very welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.